While the asthenosphere wraps around the Earth's core as one connected region, the lithosphere is separated on top into tectonic plates.
Nhanh đấy.
There are 7 primary tectonic plates that compose the shape of the planet we know today. Like the other smaller tectonic plates, the primary plates are about 100 kilometers thick and are composed of 1 or 2 layers, continental crust and oceanic crust. Continental crust forms the continents and areas of shallow water close to their shores, whereas oceanic crust forms the ocean basins. The transition from the granitic continental crust to the basaltic oceanic crust occurs beyond the continental shelf, in which the shore suddenly slopes down towards the ocean floor. The South American plate is an example of a tectonic plate made of 2 crusts, the continent we know from today's map, and a large region of the Atlantic Ocean around it. Collectively comprising the lithosphere, these plates are brittler and stiffer than the heated, malleable layer of the asthenosphere below. Because the tectonic plates float on top of this layer, independently of the speed and direction in which these tectonic some of this is still trying to nail down the driving forces while others are examining the influence of the Earth's rotation and gravity. Though the mechanics have not been slowed down, scientists remain convinced that our tectonic plates are for billions of years. Because these plates move independently, a fair amount of The next interaction is when 2 plates collide, known as a convergent belt. In this instance, the land is pushed upward to form large mountain ranges like the Himalayas. In fact, the Indian plate is still colliding with the Eurasian plate, which is why Mount Everest grows 1 centimeter bigger. Finally, there's the transform boundaries, where 2 plates scrape past each other. The grinding of the transform boundary leads to many earthquakes, which is what happens in the 810-mile-long San Andreas Fault. The moving Earth is unstoppable, and while a shift of 10 centimeters per year may not seem like a lot, over millions of years, our planet will continue to dramatically change. Mountains will rise, shorelines will recede, islands will pop up. In fact, one projected map shows the cities of Los Angeles and San Francisco on top of each other. Maybe South America and Africa will come together again too. Only time will tell.
Này vừa xong phát mũi vãi.
A force of nature set 2 giant masses on an unavoidable collision course that would and spell life or death for thousands of species. The force of nature was plate tectonics, and the bodies were North and South America. And even though they were flowing toward each other at an underwhelming 2.5 centimeters per year, their collision actually did have massive biological repercussions by causing one of the greatest episodes of biological migration in recent history, the Great American Biotic Interchange. Our story begins 65 million years ago, the beginning of the Age of Mammals, when what is now North and South America were continents separated by a unique connection between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. During this time, South America was the home of fauna that included armored as long as compact giant sloths weighing more than a ton, opossums, monkeys, and carnivorous timber birds. North America had its own species, such as horses, bears, and saber-toothed cats. Over 20 million years, the shifting of the Farallon and Completeness plates produced the Central America volcanic arc, a peninsula connected to North America. with only a very narrow seaway separating it from South America.
This is like
As
second
these plates
run.
continued to surf the
that's
Earth's
low,
magma
man.
layer far beneath the Pacific
Bro,
Ocean
would
floor,
have
the
scored like
Caribbean plate
780
migrated eastward, and
and
about
beyond.
15 million years ago, South America finally collided with this Central American arc. This gradually closed the water connection between the Pacific and the Caribbean, creating a land bridge which connected North America to South America. Terrestrial organisms could now cross between the two continents, and from the fossil records, it's evident that different waves of their dispersals took place. Even though plants don't physically move, they are easily dispersed by wind and waves.
No, you bro.
So they migrated first, along with a few species of birds. They were followed by some freshwater fishes and amphibians, and finally, various mammals began to traverse the bridge.
Damn.
From South America, mammals like ground sloths and glyptodonts were widely distributed in North America. Moreover, many South American tropical mammals, like monkeys and bats, colonized the forests of Central America and are very abundant today. South American predator marsupials went extinct 3 million years ago, at which point North American predators, such as cats, bears, and foxes, migrated south and occupied the ecological space left behind. Horses, llamas, tapirs, cougars, saber-toothed cats, gomphotheres, and later humans also headed south across the land bridge. But what happened on land is only half the story. What had been one giant ocean was now two, creating differences in temperature and salinity for the two bodies of water.
Oh no, if he
The
has
isthmus also became a barrier for many
And
marine
or not.
organisms, like mollusks, crustaceans, foraminifera, bryozoans, and fish, and separated the populations of many marine species. It also allowed the establishment of the thermohaline circulation, a global water conveyor belt, which transports warm water across the Atlantic and influences the climate of the east coast of North America, the west coast of Europe, and many other areas. It's a challenge to track all of the ways the collision of the Americas changed the world, but it's safe to say that the ripples of the Great American Biotic Interchange have propagated through the history of life on the planet and that of mankind. What if these
So
species
that-
hadn't
oh my
gone
God.
extinct? Or if there were no monkeys in Central America, or jaguars in South America? What if the thermohaline circulation wasn't flowing? Would the east coast of North America be much colder? It all goes to show, some of the most impactful transformations of our planet aren't the explosive ones that happen in an instant, but the ones that crawl towards irreversible change. We are the product of history.
damn so many stamp.
You're swimming in the ocean when something brushes your leg. When the tingling sets in, you realize you've been stung by a jellyfish. How do these beautiful gelatinous creatures pack such a painful punch? Jellyfish are soft because they are 95% water and are mostly made of a
Damn.
translucent gel-like substance called mesoglia. With such delicate bodies, they rely on thousands of venom-containing stinging cells called cnidocytes for protection and prey capture. Even baby jellyfish,
fuck?
the size of a
No.
pencil eraser, have the ability to sting. Larval jellyfish, ephyrae, look like tiny flowers pulsating in the sea. As they grow, they become umbrella-shaped with a bell at the top and descending tentacles around the margin. The largest species of jellyfish, the lion's mane, has tentacles that can extend more than 100 feet, longer than a blue whale. These tentacles contain most of the stinging cells, although some species have them on their bells too. Venom is ejected via a nematocyst, a whip-like hollow tubule, which lies coiled
what's your
under
handle?
high osmotic pressure. When mechanical or chemical stimuli activate an external trigger, the lid of the cell pops open and seawater
No
rushes in.
handle.
This forces a microscopic barbed harpoon to shoot out, penetrate and inject venom into its victim. Nematocyst discharge can occur in less than a millionth of a second, making it one of nature's fastest biomechanical processes. Nematocysts can continue to fire even after a jellyfish has died, so it's important to remove lingering tentacles stuck to the skin. Rinsing with vinegar will usually render undischarged nematocysts inactive. Seawater can also help remove residual nematocysts. But don't use fresh water, because any change in salt balance alters the osmotic pressure outside of the cnidocyte and will trigger the nematocyst to fire. That's why urinating on the affected area, a common folk remedy, may do more harm than good, depending on the composition of the urine. Most jellyfish stings are a painful nuisance, but some can be deadly. An Indo-Pacific box jelly, also called a sea wasp, releases venom which can cause contraction of the heart muscles and rapid death in large doses. There's an anti-venom, but the venom is fast-acting, so you need immediate medical intervention. Despite the impressive power in their tentacles, jellies aren't invincible. Their stinging cells are no match for the armor of thick-skinned predators like the leatherback turtle and ocean sunfish. These predators both have adaptations that prevent slippery jellyfish from escaping after they are engulfed. Backwards pointing spines in the turtle's mouth and esophagus, and recurved teeth behind the sunfish's cheeks. Even tiny slipper lobster larvae can cling to the bell of a jellyfish and hitch a ride, snacking on the jelly while they preserve their own energy for growth. Small agile fish use the jellies as moving reefs for protection, darting between tentacles without ever touching them. Nudibranchs, which are sea slugs covered in protective slime, can actually steal the jelly's defenses by eating the cnidocytes and transferring them to specialized sacs for later use, as weapons against their own predators. Even humans might benefit from the sting of a jellyfish one day. Scientists are working on manipulating cnidocytes to deliver medicine, with nematocysts rarely 3% of the size of a typical syringe needle. So, the next time you're out in the ocean, be careful, but also take a second to marvel at its wonders.
Vì thôi, dùng Format thì hơn cả là không phải farm SP nhiều.
What could octopuses possibly have in common? After all, they don't have lungs, spines, or now. But what they do have is the ability to solve puzzles, learn through observation, and even use tools, just like some other animals do. And what makes octopus intelligence so amazing is that it comes from a biological structure completely different from ours. The 200 or so species of octopuses are mollusks belonging to the order Cephaloptera, Greek egg. Those heads contain impressively large brains with a range of octopuses similar to that of other intelligent animals, and a complex nervous system with about as many neurons as that of a dog. But instead of being centralized in the brain, these 500 million neurons are spread out in a network of interconnected ganglia organized into three basic structures. The central brain only contains about 10% of the neurons, while the two contain about 30%. The other 60% are like our arms and lines. This is where things get even more interesting. Brains like us have a rigid skeleton to support our bodies, joints that allow us to move, but not all types of movement are allowed. You can't bend your knee backwards or bend your forearm in the knee, for example. Cephalopods, on the other hand, have no bones at all, allowing them to bend their limbs at any point and in any direction, so shaping their tentacles into any one of the virtually limitless number of possible arrangements is unlike anything we're used to. Consider a simple task, like grabbing and eating an apple. The human brain contains a neurological map of our body. When you see the apple, your brain's motor center activates the appropriate muscles, allowing you to reach out with your arm, grab it with your hand, bend your elbow, and bring it together. The process is quite different. Rather than a body map, the cephalopod's brain has a behavioral map. So when the octopus sees its brain doesn't activate a specific body part, but rather a behavioral response to grab. As the signal travels through the net, the arm neurons pick up the message and jump into action to command the movement. As soon as the arm touches the food, a muscle activation wave travels all the way through the arm to its base, while the arm sends back another wave from the base to the tip. The signals meet halfway between the food and the base of the arm.
Roll full là hết khó ngay.
What all this means is that the octopus's 8 arms can essentially think for itself.
Full thôi.
This gives it amazing flexibility and creativity in a situation. Whether it's opening a bottle to escaping through a maze, moving around in a new environment, a lot of speed or mimicking others' features to scare away enemies. Cephalopod complex brains long before our vertebrate relatives, and octopus intelligence isn't just useful for octopuses. They're radically in developing flexible robots made of soft materials.
Câu vậy sao?
How the intelligence of robots along such a divergent evolution help us understand more about intelligence in general. Who knows what other forms of intelligence are possible, or how they access the world of nature.
Imagine you were alive back in the 1980s and were told that computers would soon take over everything, from shopping to dating and the stock market. That billions of people would be connected via a kind of web. That you would own a handheld device orders of magnitude more powerful than supercomputers. It would seem absurd, but then all of it happened. Science fiction became our reality and we don't even think about it. We're at a similar point today with genetic engineering. So let's talk about it. Where it came from, what we're doing right now, and about a recent breakthrough that will change how we live and what we perceive as normal forever. Humans have been engineering life for thousands of years. Through selective breeding, we strengthened useful traits in plants and animals. We became very good at this, but never truly understood how it works until we discovered the code of life, deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. A complex molecule that guides the growth, development, function and reproduction of everything alive. Information is encoded in the structure of the molecule. 4 nucleotides are paired and make up a code that carries instructions. Change the instructions and you change the being carrying it. As soon as DNA was discovered, we learned to tinker with it. In the 1960s, scientists bombarded plants with radiation to cause random mutations in the genetic code. The idea was to get a useful plant variation by pure chance. Sometimes it actually worked too. In the 70s, scientists inserted DNA snippets into bacteria, plants and animals to study and modify them for research, medicine, agriculture and for fun. The earliest genetically modified animal was born in 1974, making mice a standard tool for research, saving millions of lives. In the 80s, we got commercial. The first patent was given for a microbe engineered to absorb oil. Today, we produce many chemicals by means of engineered life, like life-saving clotting factors, growth hormones and insulin, all things we had to harvest from the organs of animals before that. The first food modified in the lab went on sale in 1994, the Flavor Saver tomato, a tomato given a much longer shelf life via an extra gene that suppressed the buildup of a rotting enzyme. But GM food and the controversy surrounding them deserve a video of their own. In the 1990s, there was also a brief foray into human engineering. To treat maternal infertility, babies were made that carried genetic information from 3 humans, making them the first humans ever to have 3 genetic parents. Today, there are super-muscled pigs, fast-growing salmon, featherless chickens, and see-through frogs. On the fun side, we made things glow in the dark. Fluorescent zebrafish are available for as little as $10. All of this is already very impressive, but until recently, gene editing was extremely expensive, complicated, and took a long time to do. This has now changed with a revolutionary new technology now entering the stage: CRISPR. Overnight, the costs of engineering have shrunk by 99%. Instead of a year, it takes a few weeks to conduct experiments, and basically everybody with a lab can do it. It's hard to get across how big a technical revolution CRISPR is. It literally has the potential to change humanity forever. Why did this sudden revolution happen, and how does it work? Bacteria and viruses have been fighting since the dawn of life. So-called bacteriophages, or phages, hunt bacteria. In the ocean, phages kill 40% of them every single day. Phages do this by inserting their own genetic code into the bacteria and taking them over to use them as factories. The bacteria try to resist, but fail most of the time because their protection tools are too weak. But sometimes bacteria survive an attack. Only if they do so can they activate their most effective antivirus system. They save a part of the virus DNA in their own genetic code in a DNA archive called CRISPR. Here, it's stored safely until it's needed. When the virus attacks again, the bacterium quickly makes an RNA copy from the DNA archive and arms a secret weapon, a protein called Cas9. The protein now scans the bacterium's insides for signs of the virus invader by comparing every bit of DNA it finds to the sample from the archive. When it finds a 100% perfect match, it's activated and cuts out the virus DNA, making it useless, protecting the bacterium against the attack. What's special is that Cas9 is very precise, almost like a DNA surgeon. The revolution began when scientists figured out that the CRISPR system is programmable. You can just give it a copy of DNA you want to modify and put the system into a living cell. If the old techniques of genetic manipulation were like a map, CRISPR is like a GPS system. Aside from being precise, cheap, and easy, CRISPR offers the ability to edit live cells, to switch genes on and off, and target and study particular DNA sequences. It also works for every type of cell: microorganisms, plants, animals, or humans. But despite the revolution CRISPR is for science, it's still just a first-generation tool. More precise tools are already being created and used as we speak. In 2015, scientists used CRISPR to get the HIV virus out of living cells from patients in a lab, proving that it was possible. Only about a year later, they carried out a larger-scale project with rats that had the HIV virus in basically all of their body cells. By simply injecting CRISPR into the rats' tails, they were able to remove more than 50% of the virus from cells all over the body. In a few decades, a CRISPR therapy might cure HIV and other viruses that got inside human DNA. Herpes could be eradicated this way. CRISPR could also defeat one of our worst enemies, cancer.
Trông hơi nét.
Cancer occurs when cells refuse to die and keep multiplying while concealing themselves from the immune system. CRISPR gives us the means to edit your immune cells and make them better cancer hunters. Getting rid of cancer might eventually mean getting just a couple of injections and a few thousand of your own cells that have been engineered in the lab to heal you for good. The first clinical trial for a CRISPR cancer treatment on human patients was approved in early 2016 in the US. Not even a month later, Chinese scientists announced that they would treat lung cancer patients with immune cells modified with CRISPR in August 2016. Things are picking up pace quickly.
Waste damage.
And then there are genetic diseases. There are thousands of them, and they range from mildly annoying to deadly or entail decades of suffering. With a powerful tool like CRISPR, we may be able to end this. Over 3,000 genetic diseases are caused by a single incorrect letter in your DNA. We are already building a modified version of Cas9 that is made
Như
to
là
change
gì?
just a single letter fits in exactly sound. In a decade or two, we could possibly cure thousands of diseases forever. But all of these medical applications have one thing in common. They are limited to the individual and documented, except if you use them on reproductive cells or very early embryos. But CRISPR can and probably will be used for much more. The creation of modified humans, designer babies, and will mean gradual but irreversible changes to the human gene pool. The means to edit the genome of human embryo already exist. Now the technology is still in its early stages, but it has already been attempted twice. In 2015 and 2016, Chinese scientists experimented with human embryos and were partially successful in their second attempt.
Sai
They
rồi.
showed the enormous challenges
Không
we
biết làm
still
được hết á.
face in gene editing embryos, but also that scientists are working on solving them. This is like the computer in the 70s. There will be better computers. Regardless of your personal take on genetic engineering, it will affect you. Modified humans could alter the genome of our entire species because their engineered traits will be passed on to their children and could spread over generations, slowly modifying the whole genome of humanity. It will start slowly. The first designer babies will not be overly designed, and it's most likely that they will be created to eliminate a deadly genetic disease running in a family. As the technology progresses and gets more refined, more and more people may argue that not using genetic modification is unethical because it condemns children to preventable suffering and death and denies them the cure. But as soon as the first engineered kid is born, a door is opened that can't be closed anymore. Early on, humanity traits will mostly be left alone. But as genetic modification becomes more accepted and our knowledge of our genetic code enhances, the temptation will grow. If you make your offspring immune to Alzheimer, why not also give them an enhanced metabolism? Why not throw in perfect eyesight? How about control muscle structure? Or hair? How about giving your child the gift of extraordinary intelligence? Huge changes are made as a result of the personal decisions of millions of individuals that accumulate. This is a slippery slope. Modified humans could become the new standard. But as engineering becomes more normal and our knowledge improves, we could solve the single biggest mortality risk factor, aging. 2/3 of the 150,000 people who die today will die of age-related causes. Currently, aging is caused by the accumulation of damage to our cells, like DNA breaks, and the systems responsible for fixing those wearing off over time. But there are also genes that directly affect aging. A combination of genetic engineering and other therapy could stop or slow down aging, maybe even reverse it. We know from nature that there are animals immune to aging. Maybe we
nét quá.
can even borrow a few genes for ourselves. Some scientists even think biological aging could be something that eventually just stops being a thing. We could still die at some point, but instead of doing so in hospitals at age 90, we might be able to spend a few thousand years with our loved ones. Research into this is in its infancy. Many scientists are really skeptical about the end of aging. The challenges are enormous, and maybe it is unachievable. But it is conceivable that people alive today might be the first to profit from effective anti-aging therapy. All we might need is for someone to convince a smart billionaire to make it their next problem to solve. On a bigger scale, we certainly could solve many problems by having a modified population. Engineered humans might be better equipped to cope with high-energy food, eliminating many diseases of civilization like obesity. In possession of a modified immune system with a library of potential threats, we might become immune to most diseases that haunt us today. Even further into the future, we could engineer humans to be equipped for extended space travel and to cope with different conditions on our planet, which would be extremely helpful in keeping us alive in our hostile universe. Still, three major challenges await us. Some technological, some ethical. Many of you watching will feel uncomfortable and fear that we will create a world in which we will reject modified humans and pre-select features and qualities based on our idea of what's healthy. The thing is, we are already living in this world. Tests for dozens of genetic diseases or complications have become standard for pregnant women in much of the world. Often the mere suspicion of a genetic defect can lead to the end of a pregnancy. Take Down syndrome, for example, one of the most common genetic defects. In Europe, about 90% of pregnancies occur are terminated. The decision to terminate a pregnancy is incredibly personal, but it's important to acknowledge the reality that we are pre-selecting humans based on medical conditions.
Nào ta không kéo xuống được
There
cách
is
3.
also no use in pretending this
Mà
will
lại
change,
4 không?
so we have to act carefully and respectfully as we advance the technology and can make more and more selections. But none of this will happen soon. As powerful as CRISPR is, and it is, it's not infallible yet. Wrong edits still happen, as well as unknown errors that can occur anywhere in the DNA and might go unnoticed. The gene edit might achieve the desired result, disabling a disease, but also might accidentally trigger unwanted changes. We just don't know enough yet about the complex interplay of our genes to avoid unpredictable consequences. Working on accuracy and monitoring methods is a major concern as the first human trials begin. And since we've discussed a possible positive future, there are darker issues too. Imagine what a state like North Korea could do if they embraced genetic engineering. Could a certain scientist hold forever by forcing a gene error on their subjects? What would stop a totalitarian regime from engineering an army of modified super soldiers? It is doable in theory. Scenarios like this one are one far off into the future if they ever become possible at all. But the basic proof of concept for genetic engineering like this already exists today. The technology really is that powerful. While this might be a tempting reason to ban genetic editing and related research, that would certainly be a mistake. Banning human genetic engineering would only lead to the science wandering off to a place of jurisdiction and rules that we're uncomfortable with. Only by participating can we make sure that further research is guided by caution, reason, oversight and transparency.
Mà nét quá.
Do you feel uncomfortable now? Most of us have something wrong with them. In the future that lies ahead of us, would we have been allowed to exist? The technology is certainly a bit scary, but we have a lot to gain, and genetic engineering might just be a step in the natural evolution of intelligent species in the universe. We might end disease. We could extend our life expectancy by centuries and travel to the stars. There's no need to think small when it comes to this topic. Whatever one can of genetic engineering, the future is approaching no matter what. What has been set in science fiction is about to become our new reality. A reality full of opportunities and challenges. Videos like this would not be possible without your donations on Patreon. If you want to support us explaining complicated stuff, and then you get your own bird in return, you can do so. If you want to learn more about CRISPR, we put resources and further links in the description. More videos about the whole topic area will follow. If you want to be notified when it happens, follow us here.
Nào ta, nếu mà T mà con Clyde ấy, thì đam lại không to bằng T
There is
của con
a hole
FR.
at the bottom of math. A hole that means we will never know everything with certainty. There will always be true statements that cannot be proven. Now, no one knows what those statements are exactly, but it could be something like the twin prime. Twin primes are prime numbers that are generated like 11 and 13,
So
or
freaking
17 and 19. And as you go up the number line, primes occur less frequently, and twin primes are rarer still. But the twin prime conjecture is that there are infinitely many twin primes who never run out. As of right now, no one has proven this conjecture true or wrong. But the crazy thing is this: we may never know, because that in any system of mathematics or arithmetic, there will always be true statements that are that is life. Specifically, this is the game of life created in 1970 by mathematician John Conway, who sadly passed away in 2020 from COVID-19.
Nếu có
Conway's
SP,
game of life is played on an
thiếu phải
infinite
cả liều.
grid of square cells, each of which is either alive or dead. And there are only two rules. One, any dead cell with exactly 3 neighbors comes to life. And two, any living cell with less than 2 or more than 3 neighbors dies. Once you set up the initial arrangement of cells, the 2 rules are applied to create the next generation. One after that, and so on. It's totally automatic. Conway called it a zero-player game. But the rules are simple. Each cell can generate a wide variety of behaviors. Some static, unstable, they arise in others possibly you can travel across the grid forever like this wire. Any pattern just fizzle out. But if you keep growing forever, they keep generating new cells. Now you would think that given the simple rules of the game, you would look at any pattern and turns out, this question is impossible to answer. The ultimate fate
Lắp thì lắp được thôi, quan trọng
of
là
the
dùng
game
không.
of life is undecidable, meaning there is no possible algorithm that can answer the question. You could always just try running the pattern and see what happens. I mean, the rules of the game are a kind of algorithm after all. But that's not guaranteed to give you an answer either, because even if you run it for 1 million generations, you won't be able to say whether it'll last forever or just or a Google project. Is there something special about real life that makes it undecidable? Nope. There are actually a number of systems quantum physics, airline ticketing systems, and even magic gravity. To understand how undecidability shows up in all of these places, we have to go back 150 years to a full-blown revolt in mathematics. In 1874, Georg Cantor, a German mathematician, published a paper that launched a new branch of mathematics called set. Set is a well-defined complex thing. So are a set, as are all the planetariums in the world. There's a set with nothing in it, a set with everything. Now, Cantor was thinking about numbers, like positive integers, like 1, 2, and rational numbers, which include fractions like third, 5 halves, also irrational numbers like pi, b, and the square root of 2. Basically, any number that can be represented as a decimal. Are there more natural numbers? Or more real numbers?
Con đã em té. Mất mẹ quy tế.
So both sets should be the same size. But to check this logic, Cantor imagined writing down an infinite list, matching up each natural number on one side with a real number between 0 and 1 on the other. Now, since each real number is an infinite decimal, there is no first one, so we can just write them down in any random order. The key is to make sure we get them all with no duplicates and line them up 1 to 1 with an integer. If we can do that with none left over, well then we know that the set of natural numbers and the set of real numbers between 0 and 1
Giờ
are
HT
the
không có full
same
handle.
size. So assume we've done that. We have a complete infinite list, like an index number. So identifier for each real number. Now, start writing down. And the way we're going to do it is by using the first number, that is 1. The second digit for the second number, and again, add 1. Take the third digit for the third number, add 1. Keep doing this all the way around the list. If the digit is a 9, roll it back to 1. And by the end of this process, you will have a real number between 0 and 1. Thing. This number won't appear anywhere on our list. The difference for the first number, the first decimal, the second number, the second. So on down the line. It has to be different from every number on the list. That's why this is called diagonalization proof.
Mất quy
It
tế.
shows there must be
Không có
more
quy tế, không có
real
đam.
numbers between 0 and 1 than there are natural numbers extending out to infinity. So not all infinities are the same size. You can't solve multiple uncountable infinities. Now, Canterbury was just the latest version of bedrock physics. But at the turn of the 19th century, Lopezsky and Gauss discovered non-Euclidean geometry. This prompted mathematicians to examine more closely the foundations of the field, and they did not like what they saw. The idea of a limit, part of calculus, turned out to be poorly defined. Now, papers are showing that infinity itself is much more complex than anyone imagined. In almost a pure mathematics practice, on the one side, the thought that Cantor's work was nonsense. They were convinced that we had to live in mind, and that infinities like Cantor's. Henri Poincaré said that later generations will regard set theory as a Leopold Kronecker called Cantor a scientific charlatan and a corrupter of the youth. He worked to keep Cantor from getting a job. On the other side were the formalists. They thought that math was the formalists was the German mathematician David Hilbert. Was a little legend. Worked with nearly 3 years. Punch on general relativity. It also concepts that were crucial to quantum mechanics and work was brilliant. Hilbert was convinced that a more formal and rigorous system of mathematical proof on set theory would solve all related problems. And most other mathematics no one shall expel us from paradise that can't. But in 1901, Bertrand Russell pointed out a famous problem. Russell used sets and infinite they can contain other sets, or even themselves.
À,
For example, the set of all sets
thiếu
must
tí
contain
hit chứ lị.
itself, as does the set of sets with more than 5 elements in them. You could even talk about the set of all sets that contain themselves. But this leads straight to a problem. What about R? The set of all sets that don't contain themselves. If R doesn't contain itself, well, then it must contain itself. If R does contain itself, then by definition it must not contain itself. So R contains itself if and only if it doesn't. Russell found another paradox of self-reference. He later explained this paradox using a very let's say there's a village populated entirely by specifically, the law states that the village barber must shave all and only those men of the village who do not shave themselves. But the barber himself lives in the village too. So you shave him. If he doesn't shave himself, then the barber has to shave him. But the barber can't shave himself because the barber doesn't shave anyone who shaves themselves. So the barber must shave himself if only if he doesn't. It's
Hello there.
Theory hopelessly flawed. The concept of a set.
Wow.
So the collection
So
of all
freaking
sets,
dead,
for
man.
example, is not a set anymore, and neither
Is
is the collection of
2CM
all
better?
sets which don't contain themselves. This eliminated the paradoxes that come with self-reference. Hilbert and the formalists lived to fight another day, but self-reference refused to die quite that easily. Fast forward to the 1960s, and mathematician Hao Wang was looking at square tiles with different colors on each side, like these. The rules were that touching edges must be the same color, and you can't rotate or reflect tiles, only slide them around.
What
The
the
question was,
fuck?
if you're given an arbitrary set of these tiles, can you tell if they will tile the plane? That is, will they connect up
Sợ.
with no gaps all the way out to infinity? It turns out, you can't tell for an arbitrary set of tiles whether they just like the state of a pattern on a scale of light. In fact, it's exactly the same problem. And the problem, ultimately, is System of proofs starts with axioms, basic statements that are assumed to be true, like a straight line proofs are then constructed from these axioms using rules. Methods for using existing statements to derive new statements. Those statements are true, so are the new ones. Formal systems, symbolic logical logical and mathematical statements from a book that all would be Hilbert and the formalists wanted to express the axioms of mathematics systems, rules, or symbol manipulation. So, Alfred North Whitehead developed a formal system like this.
Let's see.
Trivia Mathematica, published in the Trivia Mathematica is vast, a total of nearly 2,000 pages of condensed mathematical knowledge. 760 just to get to a complete proof that Newton was 1 equals 2, at which point Russell and Whitehead bragged out. Above proposition is occasionally used. The authors had originally planned a fourth volume, but unsurprisingly, they were too worn out. So, yeah, notation is dense and exhausting,
Wow,
but it is also exact, unlike ordinary languages. It leaves no room for errors or fuzzy logic to leak in. And most importantly, it allows you to the system itself.
Nạp tiền mua HOR thôi. Trứng này trứng FR ngon hơn.
Simultaneously prove A and not A, then that's a real problem because you can prove anything at all. And number 3, is math decidable? Meaning, is there an algorithm that can always determine whether a statement follows from the answer? Now, Hilbert was convinced the answers to all 3 of these questions was yes.
The major problem is there's no way he ended in the line summed up in opposition to the foolish ignorability. Our slogan shall be, we must know, we will know. These words are literally on his grave. But by the time Hilbert gave this speech,
The FR.
dream was already crumbling. Just the day before, at a small meeting, a magician named Kurt Gödel explained that he had found the answer to the first formal system of mathematics but the next year, this time, everyone in Hilbert took notice. This is how Gödel's proof works.
Gödel wanted to use logic and mathematics to answer questions about the very nature of logic. And so he took all these basic symbols of a mathematical system and he gave this count as expressing all of these numbers, and what to do about the numbers themselves. Well, 0 gets its own little number, 6, and if you want to write a 1, just put of 0
Thằng này không có tóc handle.
So
Xem ra
now
Đam
that
vẫn
we
thua mid
have
handle.
Gödel numbers for all of the basic symbols and all of the numbers we might want to use, we can start to write equations. Like we
Eden
could
chưa
write
3S.
0 equals 0. So these symbols
Dead.
have the Gödel numbers
Má,
6,
SS 1 chứ.
5, 6. And we can actually create a
SS1
new
và dead.
card that represents this equation,
đánh đi
0
đã.
equals 0.
Đang-
And the way
đang
we
phê
do
lắm.
it is we take the prime numbers, starting at 2, and we raise each one to
Nếu
the
hiểu
power
arc này
of
tẩy kiểu
the
gì.
Gödel number of the symbol in our equation. So we have 2 to the power of 6 times 3 to the power of 5 times 5 to the power of 6 equals 243 million. So 243 million is the Gödel number of the whole equation 0 equals 0. We can write down Gödel numbers for any set of symbols that you can imagine. So really, this is an infinite deck of cards where any set of symbols that you want to write down in a sequence, you can represent with a unique Gödel number. And the beauty of this Gödel number is you can do a prime factorization of it, and you can work
Không đủ
out
mua chục
exactly
mảnh nữa.
what symbols made up this
À,
card.
dead.
So in this whole pack of cards, there are going to be true statements and there are going to be false statements. So how do you prove that something is true? Well, you need to go to the axioms. The axioms also have their own Gödel numbers, which are formed in the same way. So here's an axiom which says not the successor of any number x equals
Đánh tiêu
0.
tí Đam là được.
Which makes sense because in this system there are no negative numbers, and so the successor of any number cannot be 0. So we can put down this axiom, and then we can substitute in 0
Maybe
for
Phantom,
x, saying that 1 does not equal 0. And we've created a proof. This is the simplest proof I can think of that shows that 1 does not equal 0. Now this card, for the proof of 1 does not equal 0, gets its own Gödel number. And the way we calculate this Gödel number is just as
Ảo
before,
thật
we
đấy.
take the prime numbers, and we raise 2 to the
Crit
power
Dam,
of
nhìn quả Crit Dam
the
kìa. Vãi
axiom
lều.
times 3 to the power of 1
Sao lại
does
dead
not
như thế này?
equal 0. And we get a tremendously large number. It would have 73 million
One, two.
digits if you calculated
phí.
it all
Ôi,
out. So I've just left it
có
here
dòng 22
in
kia quên mất.
exponential notation.
Sheesh.
As you can see, these numbers get very large, and so you might want to start just calling them by letters. So we could say this one
Má, hết
is
ấy luôn.
Gödel number A, this is Gödel number B,
Dead.
Gödel number C, and so on. Gödel goes to all this trouble
Dòng 22
to
quên
find
lấy xong.
this
Mất luôn.
card. It says there is no proof for the statement with Gödel number. The Gödel number of this card there is no proof anywhere in it's false. There is a proof. And what you've just proven is there is no proof. So you're stuck with a contradiction. That would mean the mathematical system is inconsistent. The other alternative is that this card is true. There is no proof for the statement with Gödel. That means this mathematical system has statements in it. Mathematical system. This is how he shows that any basic mathematical system, fundamental arithmetic, will always have There's a line in the TV show The Office that echoes the self-referential paradox of Gödel.
Wow, dead.
But
The damage is missing somewhere.
Gödel's incompleteness theorem means that truth and provability are not all the same thing. Hilbert was wrong. There will always be Hilbert could console himself with hope that is free of contradiction. But then Gödel published his second
này đánh
incompleteness theorem,
thiếu
in which he
SV mà
showed
thiếu
that
cả
any
đam nữa chứ.
consistent formal
Không
system
hiểu
of
nổi.
math does not prove its own consistency. So, taken together, Gödel's incompleteness theorem is a consistent yet inconsistent system. But a system like that does not prove its own consistency. So some contradictions that always crop up in the future will be and that means the third and final big question for Hilbert is mathematical decidedness. That is there an algorithm that can alter determine whether a statement follows the axioms? And in 1936, Alan Turing found a way to solve this question. But to do it, he had to invent a modern computer. In his time, computers weren't machines. They were often women who carried out long he wanted it to be powerful enough to perform any computation The machine has a read-write head that controls one digit and performs one of any of two tasks. Overwrite a new value. Move right. Or simply ultimately program has run. The program consists of a set of internal
Scam.
instructions like a flowchart. You could imagine porting these instructions to any other machine. Although this sounds
How can I
simple,
deal with the
a
last
Turing
bar?
machine's arbitrarily large memory
Ow.
and program mean it can execute any computable
That was a run.
algorithm
I almost
enough
got it.
time. From addition and subtraction to the entire algorithm to do anything a modern human can do. That's what made the Turing machine so stability. When a machine halts, the program has finished running and is able to the output. Sometimes the Turing machine never halts. It gets stuck in an infinite loop. You can tell beforehand if the program will halt or not. You realize this halting problem was very similar to the decidability problem. If you could find a way to figure out if a Turing machine would halt, then it would also be possible to decide a statement following from the action. For example, you could solve the twin prime conjecture by writing a Turing machine program that starts with the axioms and all theorems that can be produced in one step. Then it constructs all theorems. It generates a new theorem. If not, so Turing said, let's assume we can make the machine halt or not on a particular input. So the program simulates what we have either halt or never halt. For now, we don't worry about how we do it. Just know that it always gives you the right answer. We can quantify these by adding one immediately goes into an infinite loop. Another, if it receives never halts, it immediately halts. We can call this an entire new machine. Now, if you give its own program, now, simulating what each function given essentially each has to become a behavior of a machine that it itself is a part of. This exact circuit.
Dead.
Each concludes
that H plus never halts,
So
well,
copy that.
this makes H plus immediately halt.
Please stand up.
その罪を裁くわ
If H thinks H plus will halt, well then that necessarily forces H plus to loop.
It's
Whatever
nighttime.
output the halting machine H gives, it turns out to be wrong.
人が
There's a
人である
contradiction. The only explanation can be that a machine like H can't exist. There's no way to tell in general if a Turing machine will halt or not on a given input.
And this means mathematics is undecidable.
À,
There is
S3
no
đấy.
algorithm that
S
can
thì mới
always
đỡ đấy.
determine whether a statement is correct or reactive. So something like the twin prime conjecture might be unsolvable. We might not know whether there are
審判の時は来た熱演粉塵
In quantum mechanics, one of the most important properties of a many-body system is the difference in energy between its ground state and its first excited state. This is known as the spectral gap. Some systems
Hên
have
xui
a
ấy, thì trụ được
significant
top 5.
spectral gap,
Không thì
whereas
thôi.
others are gapless.
Ồ.
There are a continuum of energy levels
ồ.
all the way down to the
Vãi
ground
lều.
state. And this is important because at low temperatures, gapless quantum systems can undergo phase transitions while gapped systems cannot. They don't have the energy needed to overcome the spectral gap. But figuring out if a system is gapped or gapless has long been known to be a very difficult problem. Only recently, in 2015, did mathematicians prove that in general, the spectral gap question is undecidable. To quote the authors, even a perfect, complete description of the microscopic interactions between a material's particles is not always enough
Quá
to
đen.
deduce its macroscopic properties. Now remember that Turing designed his machines to be as powerful computers as it is possible to make. To this day, the best computational systems are those that can do everything a Turing machine
Catch
can.
another ray
This is called Turing Completeness, and it turns out there are many such Turing complete systems. Although they are powerful, every Turing complete system comes with a catch, its own analog of the halting problem, some undecidable property of the system. Wang tiles are Turing complete. Their halting problem is whether or not they'll tile the plane. Complex quantum systems
vợ
are
tôi là
Turing
rõ.
complete, and their halting problem is
Liệu
the
3 thằng
spectral gap
770 là
question.
thế nào?
And the game of life is Turing complete. Its halting problem is literally whether or not it halts. There are many more examples of this, like airline ticketing systems, Magic the Gathering, PowerPoint slides, and Excel spreadsheets. Nearly every programming language in existence is designed to be Turing complete. But in theory, we only need one programming language because, well, you can program anything at all using any Turing complete system. So here's a Turing machine inside the game of life. And
vợ tôi
since
là
the game
rõ.
of life is itself Turing complete, it should be capable of simulating itself, and indeed it is. This is the game of life, running on the game of life. The real legacy of David Hilbert's dream is all of our modern computational devices. Kurt Gödel suffered bouts of mental instability later in life. Convinced that people were trying to poison him, he refused to eat, eventually starving himself to death. Hilbert died in 1943. His epitaph was his slogan from 1930. We must know, we will know. The truth is, we don't know. Sometimes we can't know. But in trying to find out,
Đẹp quá.
we can discover new things, things that change the world. Alan Turing put his ideas about computing to practical use in World War II, leading the team at Bletchley Park that built real calculating machines to crack Nazi codes for the Allies. By one estimate, the intelligence Turing and his colleagues gathered from decrypted messages shortened the war by 2 to 4 years. After the war, Turing and John von Neumann designed the first true programmable electronic computer, ENIAC, based on Turing's designs. But Turing didn't live to see his ideas develop much further. In 1952, the British government convicted him of gross indecent on gay.
Ồ vãi.
In 1954, he committed suicide. Turing changed the world. He is widely considered to be the most important founding figure in computer science. All modern computers are descended from his designs. But Turing's ideas about computability stem from his concept of a Turing machine. Thinking about perfection is math the same. So Turing's code-breaking machines and indeed all modern computers stem from the weird paradoxes that arise from self-reference.
Sai quá.
There is a hole at the bottom of math. A hole that means we will never know everything with certainty. There will always be true statements that cannot be proven. I think this realization would have driven mathematicians mad and led to the disintegration of the entire mathematical enterprise. But instead, thinking about the problem formed the concept of infinity, changed the course of a world war, and led directly to the invention of the device you're watching this on.
Tôi đang làm cái đéo gì thế này.
Hey, this video is sponsored by Brilliant, a website full of interactive courses and quizzes that delve deep into topics like math, physics, and computer science. Now, if you've gotten this far into this video, you're likely someone who would love Brilliant. I've been going through their logic course, and it's really got me thinking. The problems start out easy, but get more and more challenging as you develop your understanding. What I love about this I love how it guides you, not by telling you exactly, but by exposing you to increasingly sophisticated problems. And at the end, I feel like I've worked it out for myself, which is really my path. Curious problems, and helpful explanations for when I get stuck. Now, there were a lot of things I wanted to include in this video, but couldn't because it's already over half an hour long. So if you want to explore these ideas further, I'd highly recommend their courses on number theory and computer science fundamentals. For viewers of this channel, Brilliant are offering 20% off an annual subscription to the first 200 people to sign up. Just go to brilliant.org/Veritasium, and I will put that link down in the description. So I want to thank Brilliant for sponsoring Veritasium, and I want to thank you for watching.
教訓よ私に服従しなさい雷鳴一刀両断影のカラスが優也を求めている勝利のアンコールの時間吠えなさい栗から雷鳴夜の権限ステージに戻る一刀両断
Thôi đét quá. Đéo đánh nữa. Đánh ảo vãi cả lều. Nhanh trí không đánh nữa là xong. Đơn giản. Game bao lâu vậy? Tiếng. Nhanh trí không đánh nữa là được. Đơn giản thôi, có gì đâu. xem clip của ông Box nào. Nhìn scam vãi lều ra. Scam là rõ. Má, scam quá. Cùng ấy nè.
勝利の外貨が響かんこと震えなさすが手を持つ勝利のステージに戻る
Nhánh còn không trúng nữa thì lấy đâu ra đam trời. Đam không có rồi. Gì ảo vậy? Gì đam đâu?
勝利の外貨が響かんこと震えなさ手を持つ勝利の星が光り輝く夜の権限来年の早く吠えなさい栗から来年
夜の権限
星が光り輝く一刀両断吠えなさい栗から来年一刀両断震えなさい野菜のイカズチ
Đủ.
影のカラスが優也を求めている野菜のイカズチ来年の早く震えなさ
Second ulti của
名の
Phương
も
Active.
とに
Thật đã hả?
その罪
Phương
を
Active
裁
luôn.
くわ
Tôi thấy ông dùng Active rồi ông mới ulti mà đúng không? Tức là ulti 2 không Active. Ảo vậy sao?
勝利の
Từ để xem lại. Không SP thì tôi có đủ. Khúc đấy là khè HT hơi lâu quá, thành ra là nó full mất trauma.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを逃げぬ震えなさ断罪の名においてアンコール
Khó đấy.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを逃げぬ震えなさ手を持つステージに戻る
夜の源源
勝利のアンコールの強風よ私に服従しなさい雷鳴
Bỏ mẹ. Sai rồi đó. Dead.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを震えなさ手を持つ星が光り輝く
夜の源源
Để rồi chú đam thế nhỉ?
私に服従しなさい雷鳴夜の権限星が光り輝くシノリバットン強風よ私に服従しなさい雷鳴が一刀両断
Nói chung là sai.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを震えなさい手を持つアンコールの
夜の源源
吠えなさい栗から雷鳴夜の権限ステージに戻るシノリバットン強風よ私に服従しなさい雷鳴
Bỏ mẹ sao nó ấy nhanh này. Xí. Thế à?
勝利の外貨が響かんこと震えなさい断罪の名において星が光り輝く 私に服従しなさい。雷鳴。震えなさい。影のカラスが優也を求めている。星が光り輝く。千鳥バットン。強風よ、私に服従しなさい。雷鳴。
À kiểu thế hả?
千鳥バットン。震えな。
Đúng rồi.
夜の源源
À.
すべての罪を洗い流して。
Còn cái để skip animation né của HT là gì nhỉ? Khúc cuối hơi dead. Full combo tức là charge à?
響かんこと。
夜の源源
吠えなさい、栗から。雷鳴。影のカラスが優也を求めている。ステージに戻る。一刀両断。吠えなさい、栗から。雷鳴。
夜の源源
Ô kìa. Má đét.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを。震えなさい、手を持つ。野菜のイカズチ。雷電の声。早く。夜の権限。
Đặc quá. Tay bé, tay bé.
星が光り輝く。強風よ、私に服従しなさい。
Đặc, 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 đặc. Đặc.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを。震えなさい、短大の名において。ステージに戻る。夜の権限。野菜のイカズチ。雷電の声。早く。強風よ、私に服従しなさい。雷鳴。影のカラスが優也を求めている。
Oh shit. Shi.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを。震えなさ三大の名において。アンコールの時夜の権限。強風に私に服従しなさい。雷鳴。影のカラスが優也を求めている。千鳥バットン。
Khúc này sai sao ta?
勝利の外貨が響かんことを。手影震えなさ三大の名において。星が光り輝く。影のカラスが優也を求めている。
で
勝利の外貨が響かんことを。手影震えなさ三大の名において。星が光り輝く。
làm sao skip được cái né của HT vậy? How?
勝利の外貨が響かんことを。震えなさ三大の名において。正解のイカズチ。来年の早く。
Một nhà hù. Scam, yes, scam.
アンコールの
So
燃え
freaking
なさ
scam.
栗から。夜の権限。正解のイカズチ。千鳥バットン。強風に私に服従しなさい。雷鳴閣。
Wow, scam. Thì qua live VR chat nó khác.
自分の運命と向き合うと決めました。
Hồi lời quá. Đánh khó vãi lời.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを。震えなさ三大の名において。ステージに戻る。 の外貨が響かんことを
Hello there.
上なさ下って手をまずはっステージに戻る
What? What?
勝利の外貨が響かんことを逃げぬ震えなさ三大の名において制裁の雷
Vãi nó lùi kìa. Vãi liệu. I don't know.
勝利の外貨が響かんことを
Why are you running?
震えなさ三大の名において制裁の雷電の子早く 影のカラスが優也を求めている
Why are you running?
アンコールの強風よ私に服従しなさい雷鳴
夜の源源
勝利の星が光り輝き一刀両断吠えなさい栗から雷鳴
Wow, dead. Dead. You know what? I want to take that score. That's enough for me to retain the bracket. I don't need to be in T100. No thanks. So freaking scam. Hiya. Yeah, I should have one elemental damage line on Fisher, but sadly I don't. That's the problem. You know what? Fuck it
今週は
anyway.
よくできました
I'm gonna go yeet myself. Yee. Time to go yeet myself. See you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.